In Japan, there is a highly unique and unusual profession that you won't find anywhere else in the world. They are known as Pachipro, professional gamblers who make a living entirely on the money they win inside pachinko parlors, Japan's equivalent of casinos. Day after day, these individuals commute to these neon-lit parlors to beat the system. For them, this is not a hobby, it is a full-time job. For those who are unfamiliar with the concept, pachinko is best described as Japan's unique casual casino culture. Casual in two senses. First, the stakes per bet are far lower than in a traditional casino. Second, these parlors are physically everywhere in local neighborhoods. There's no need to fly to Sin City. A Japanese pachinko parlor features two main types of games. Pachinko, played like a vertical pinball machine, and Pachi-slot, the Japanese version of slot machines with 3 spinning reels. Today, the vast majority of modern pros choose Pachi-slot as their primary battlefield. And this battlefield looks entirely different from any casino in Las Vegas. Almost all Japanese slot machines are heavily tied to popular anime and video games. If you are a fan of Japanese pop culture, you are likely familiar with these names: Gundam, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Fist of the North Star, Kaguya-sama, Love is War, Tokyo Ghoul, Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, to name just a few. The gameplay itself is perfectly designed to match the anime's world. This is no longer just a cold game of pure math and money. It is a deep, immersive entertainment experience. In fact, almost any famous anime you can think of already has its own pachinko or slot machine. And this connection works both ways. Take Evangelion, for example. Its pachinko and slot machines alone have made over 700 billion yen. Even the famous theme song, A Cruel Angel's Thesis, still makes huge money from royalties every year, largely because it plays millions of times inside these parlors. Some machine companies have taken this a step further. They now invest directly in making new anime. In other words, these gambling parlors are no longer just borrowing anime's popularity. They have quietly become the ones paying to create it. Yet, behind this flashing, anime-infused entertainment lies a world of cold calculation. The lifestyle of a Pachipro is actually very similar to that of the pro poker players found in Western casinos. Although they play against machines rather than other players, they cannot afford to get distracted by the flashy animations. They heavily rely on probabilistic models and rigorous discipline, strictly chasing mathematical expected value. Unlike poker, pachinko has no glamorous world championships, and due to strict domestic regulations, online slots are not allowed, and any form of online gambling is strictly prohibited. They cannot simply log on and make a living from the comfort of their couch. Instead, they must physically commute to parlors, fighting a lonely battle in front of machines every single day. Today we dive deep into the hidden reality of Japan's professional slot players and explore how they actually survive. Unlike slot machines and casinos, Japanese Pachi-slot requires the player to physically press buttons to stop each reel individually. Hearing this, you might naturally ask, wait, is this a skill-based game, or is it just pure luck? The answer is both. The moment you pull the lever, the internal program instantly determines the outcome of that spin. Every spin is random, and you cannot predict or manipulate the random number generator. However, the reels have a built-in mechanic. Once you press the stop button, the reel can slide by a maximum of 4 frames before coming to a halt. Because of this slide mechanic, if the internal computer hasn't drawn a winning prize, no matter how flawlessly you time your button presses, the machine will force the reels to slide away, preventing you from lining up the lucky sevens. Conversely, if you have won a bonus internally, even if your timing is slightly off, the machine will graciously slide the reels up to 4 frames to help you align the winning symbols. Take Juggler, the most simple and popular slot machine in Japan. When a bonus is drawn internally, a small neon light that says "Go Go" illuminates on the dashboard. This is the machine's signal to the player. A bonus is waiting. Now, aim for the sevens to start your payout. Aiming for specific symbols on a spinning reel is called mei-oshi, which means visual targeted stopping. For a beginner, the spinning reels are a blur, making it impossible to read the symbols. To counter this, manufacturers design critical symbols, like the bonus sevens, in bright, oversized red graphics. allowing players to spot them easily even at high speeds. While advanced players can visually recognize every single symbol on a spinning reel and stop it exactly where they want, no amount of skill can force a bonus if the machine hasn't authorized it. The program will simply slide the reels to ensure a miss. Once a bonus is triggered internally, it will not disappear until you successfully line it up, meaning you can try as many times as you need. However, players who struggle to align the symbols immediately end up wasting coins on failed attempts, whereas a skilled player minimizes this loss. So, is Pachislot skill-based? Yes and no. Ultimately, mechanical skill is merely a tool to prevent minor losses. It will make a difference over time. However, it cannot fundamentally change the underlying odds of the machine. What changes the odds is a mechanic known as sete, the machine's internal payout settings. Japanese slot machines possess 6 distinct internal levels, numbered 1 through 6. Setting 1 is the least favorable for the player, making it incredibly difficult to win. Setting 6, on the other hand, is heavily shifted in the player's favor. For example, on a specific machine, setting 1 might have a payout rate of 97%. If you play this machine all day, you are mathematically projected to lose roughly 20,000 yen, around $130. Conversely, setting 6 boasts a payout rate of 114%. Playing this setting all day yields a theoretical profit of 60,000 yen, about $400. Remember, these are theoretical long-term averages, not guarantees. A player can still win on setting 1 or lose on setting 6. This randomness is what makes it gambling. But why would a business ever provide machines configured to lose the house money? The answer is simple: to attract customers. In the Japanese pachinko industry, public perception and image are everything. If a parlor gains a reputation for being generous, crowds flock to it. The visual of a packed house creates a sense of security and excitement, drawing in even more customers. Conversely, if players abandon a parlor because it feels too stingy, the venue loses its winning image, falling into a death spiral of empty chairs. Therefore, the ideal state for a parlor is to maximize its occupancy rate. By keeping the seats filled, they can lower their profit margins per machine while still securing the total revenue needed to thrive. Unlike a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Las Vegas, pachinko is an everyday pastime. Parlors don't want to wipe out a customer's bankroll in a single hour. They want players to experience a cycle of winning and losing, forming a loyal community of regulars who comfortably pay for entertainment via long-term losses. As a result, most parlors operate on a delicate balance of tight days and promotional days, using high settings as a form of reinvestment. Competition is fierce. In major entertainment districts, multiple massive parlors often crowd the exact same block. To survive, venues engage in aggressive turf wars, flaunting massive payouts to steal rivals' customers. In fact, during a grand opening, a parlor might configure every single machine in the building to the highest setting 6, intentionally bleeding tens of millions of yen in a single day just to build its reputation. Conversely, major national holidays are brutal, tight periods. Parlors lower almost every machine to the absolute minimum settings, squeezing maximum profit from the holiday crowds. It is identical to a hotel raising its room rates during peak season. Through this calculated distribution of settings, parlors control their margins, and within this ecosystem, highly profitable, player-advantageous machines genuinely exist. This structural loop is exactly where the pros find their edge. Parlors deploy high-setting machines as marketing investments, and the pros target them. Of course, venues never advertise exactly when or where these golden machines will appear. To beat the system, Pachipros compile historical data, analyze setting patterns of specific parlors, and memorize the software behaviors unique to each machine model. They look for subtle technical clues that only trigger on high settings. The moment a pro realizes they have a high-setting machine, they don't waste a single second. They just keep spinning, even if they are losing badly at that moment. On the other hand, the moment the data suggests a low-setting configuration, they eliminate all emotion and abandon the machine immediately, and they don't try to claw back that day's losses in the same session. But actually executing this inside the overwhelming, flashing chaos of a parlor is a massive mental challenge. For casual players, when the losses start mounting, emotion takes over, and logic completely goes out the window. Most players get emotional, try to chase their losses, and lose even more. On a target day, their shift begins in the early morning, lining up before doors open at 10 a.m. If they successfully secure a high-setting machine, they will sit in that chair, skipping lunch, staring at the screen, enduring chronic back and shoulder pain until past 10 p.m. Some take this to its most extreme organized form, running operations that employ a fleet of hired players, known within the culture as uchiko, to occupy more high-setting machines in the house. The leader covers all salaries of the hired players and absorbs all the winnings and losses. When people think of a professional gambler, they often imagine a lucky individual or someone blessed with supernatural intuition. But the Pachipro does not believe in luck. They understand that good days and bad days are inevitable, but they also know that over a long enough timeline, luck normalizes perfectly across all human beings. Luck is variance, but setting is reality. So, if you ask a Pachipro whether this is a game of luck or skill, the honest answer is neither. Mechanical skill, as we saw earlier, only prevents small losses, and luck, over enough time, cancels itself out. What actually separates a pro from a losing gambler is the ability to read which setting a machine is running on, and the mental discipline to act on that reading without emotions. High setting hunting is not the only weapon available. There is an entirely different predatory playstyle known as hyena. There is a type of slot machines called AT type, short for assist time. We don't get into the details of AT, but AT machines come with a safety net known as the ceiling, tenjo. If a machine fails to trigger an AT bonus after a specific number of spins, the software forcefully triggers a guaranteed AT bonus. To use an extreme example, if a machine's ceiling is set at 1,000 spins, and a frustrated casual player walks away, leaving the machine at 999th spins, what happens to the next person who sits down? They only need to spin the reel exactly once to trigger a guaranteed jackpot. The moment the bonus rounds end, they cash out and walk away with an immediate, mathematically guaranteed profit. Because this ceiling triggers even on the lowest, worst setting, a Hyena Pro doesn't need to hunt for setting 6. They simply wait for casual players to abandon highly valuable ripe machines. This is the essence of the scavenger style. This is an extreme example and is rarely found in the real parlor, but they walk and wait hours to find machines exceeding profitable expected value. This is the reality of the Pachipro ecosystem. While we focused heavily on slot machines today, the core mathematical philosophy applies identically to pachinko. The most fascinating irony of the Pachipro is that almost every single one of them started out as a standard losing gambler. They fell in love with the flashing lights, played like everyone else, and lost money. But while the average person eventually realizes they must either quit or moderate their play to avoid financial ruin, this specific breed of player reacted differently. They asked, "How do I beat this?" They research, they analyze, and they execute absolute self-control. In your early 20s, it feels like a life of ultimate freedom, earning more than your corporate peers by playing in a parlor as a customer. But as the years grind on, the traditional Japanese salaryman slowly climbs the corporate ladder, gaining social status, promotions, and a rising income. By the time the pro crosses into their 30s, their childhood friends have settled into stable careers, started families, and bought homes. Meanwhile, the aging pro is still sitting in the exact same loud parlor, staring at the exact same flashing reels, chasing the exact same statistical edge. What's worse, because the revenue of a Pachipro exists completely outside the boundaries of the official financial system, it is not recognized as legitimate income. Securing a credit card, signing an apartment lease, or qualifying for a home mortgage becomes a big challenge. And even if a pro decides to reintegrate into society, corporate recruiters will not value or respect a decade spent sitting in a pachinko parlor. When the neon lights finally turn off and the closing bell rings, they step out into the quiet Japanese night, completely free, yet entirely alone. With no bright future in sight for the pachinko industry, what is the next move for these professional players? Many are stuck with their own choice they made in their youth. But surprisingly, some of them turn to financial trading, the ability to completely detach emotion, ruthlessly manage risk, and execute strictly based on probabilities and expected value, makes former Pachipro uniquely suited for this transition. In fact, a significant number of them have found massive success as day traders in Forex and stock markets. They didn't change their mindset, they simply found a bigger machine to hack. What do you think about the life of a Pachipro? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this journey into the world of the Pachipro interesting, please hit the like button. And if you want to explore more deep, untold stories about Japan, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.